Okay, welcome. It is the last Friday in January, and what we are going to do today is twofold. One is we will do one more thing relating to math, and this is something to help unscare you, right? Um, and hopefully, so far, I've done a really good job to convince you that. This should not be a major issue for you. Math should not be a major issue for you. But anyways, so I'm going to write something on the board in a few seconds, and all of you will think that I am a liar. Not all of you, but some of you. All right, and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay, and then we will start the process and go through the measures of central tendency, which is mean, median, mode. And we'll probably get done with that and need to do the measures of dispersion on Monday. All right, so let's start with some math. Okay, I'm going to start with something really, really easy. I'm just going to write something on the board. Okay, what did I just write? Does anybody recognize this? First of all, can you see it? It looks a little light. As I do this in purple, is it better? That looks, at least from my monitor, it looks like it's a little easier to read. Any idea what I just wrote on the board? I think you guys all know this. You should all know it. Does it look familiar to anybody?
Yeah, a little bit.
Looks a little bit familiar. What parts looks familiar?
That E thing.
That E thing. Okay. Do you belong to a fraternity by any chance? No. Okay. What is that E thing? It's a capital sigma. So, if you're hanging around frat brothers, from Sigma Nu or whatever, this is a sigma. It's a capital sigma. Okay. And underneath the capital sigma, I wrote I equals 1. And on top of it, I wrote 60. Okay. Behind it, I wrote xi. And then, by the way, underneath the whole thing, I divide by 60. So what have I done here? It's such a simple math equation, isn't it? Okay, this is where you're supposed to say, huh? No, right? Yes, it is. Okay? It is an extremely simple math equation, except for probably 90% of you or 75% of you at a minimum, this sigma is going to look Greek to you. It looks like Greek, right? And it is. And some of you who look at that and say that looks like Greek to me are starting to get extremely nervous. Right? I thought there was only going to be very, very simple math. Right? Well, it is. That's about as simple as the equation is going to get. But It's only complicated because you probably don't recognize that symbol. That symbol, okay, just means add up a whole bunch of numbers. Okay. Which numbers should I add up? The x's. Which x's should I start with? I should start with the first on my list and go to the 60th of the list and add all 60 of those x numbers together. I add them all together and then I divide by 60. What do I end up with? I end up with a term that is called average. Right? Okay. Average. How do you average things together? You add them together and divide by however many there are. And many of you know how to do this. Let's assume that in this class, there are going to be 4 tests. So what does this equation say? It says for each one of the tests that you take, add them together, starting with the first test, ending with the 4th test. Once you added those 4 tests together, you divide by 4. And what does that give you? It gives your test average, right? That's what your professor is going to use in terms of your average score for the tests. This thingamajig here, this sigma, is a Greek letter. It's a capital S. S stands for sum. I'm going to add together whatever's in the back behind it. And then we start with the lowest number and we go to the highest number. So from 1 to 10. Okay. Let's say that I give 5 tests this time around. And the first test, everybody really fails, and it's a disaster. And the professor says, don't worry about test number 1. I'm not going to count it. I'll average the other ones together, right? So in that case, professor's formula would look like something like this. He's going to add all of your tests together and then divide by 4. Let's say there's 5 of these here, right? No, did I say 5 or 4? Okay. Well, I'm going to start not with the first test because I told everybody yeah, that one was just practice. Okay, we're going to start for real with the second test. So from the second test to the 5th test. Okay, I'm going to add all of the tests together, and there's going to be 4 of them, right? Because I'm ignoring the first test, test number 1. Divide by 4 gives you your test average. I'm sure you guys have done this in every single class almost that you have taken. Your professor isn't working through it, but at the end of the semester, you're trying to figure out, well, what's my grade going to be, right? So you look at the tests, you add them together, divide by however many it is, right? So this is the shorthand. All it says is add a bunch of numbers together. Okay, what we're adding together is what's behind that symbol. All right. Now, what if I don't know how many tests I'm going to give? I can create another letter, N, which basically is the number of tests that we're going to have. What's the average? It is You add them all together from the first one to the last one, to the nth one. And when you're done adding them together, you divide by n. And that gives us our average, which brings us over to this side of the equation, because notice there is a bar above this x. Well, in this case, it would have been test. So change that x to a test. So if I put a line above it, it's going to mean the average of all of the tests. So the average of all the tests equal that thing divided by n, right? Okay. If over here we have everything in a column called x's, x bar equals this thing. Right? So if we think about it, we have, if I want to find out what the average height is of all of you in the class, I can start creating a list. Student number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then, in terms of the height, I'm going to call these the x's. So I can make a column. The first person is 5'9", 5'8", 6'0", 6'2", 4'8", 5'3", 5'5", 5'8", 5'9", 5'7". These are inches, right? So 5. And I can keep going down until I get to the last, however many are in the class, and the last one would be maybe 6'3". Okay. So this is typically how we have a whole bunch of information. Okay, we've got, let's say, different number of students in the class, and we will have a column that we can create that just lists them from the first student to the second to the third, right? This column just tells you which student we're talking about in order, right? Essentially, each number is this is the 7th student in line. This is the 9th student in line. This is the 10th student in line. N is the last student, whatever that is. If there's 43 students in the class, it's the 43rd student, right, in line. Right? And then this is what we're interested in. Typically, we will use x as being a variable. Okay, and the variable, we use x, we use y, sometimes we use z. It will depend a little bit, but the normal one is x. It's the first one we usually work with. Okay, so we will see this formula over and over and over and over again, and it's really only scary because you didn't know what that thing was. Okay? It just says add a whole bunch of numbers together, right? Well, it turns out that I was teaching this class at some point in time, and someone asked me in class, okay, Professor, is that like the same thing that is on Excel? And I said, huh? And he said, oh yeah, on Excel, there's that symbol that I use all the time. I said, there is? He said, yeah, open up Excel and I'll show you. Okay. I said, okay, I'm game. I can learn. Old dogs can learn new tricks, right? So let me open share application. Open up the Excel spreadsheet. Okay. And he said, look at it on here. If you look way over right here, okay, there is a sigma here. It's in the third column over. You go to the home so that you unhide all the stuff unless yours is set up so it automatically doesn't hide things. But if you go to this column, the third one over, you'll see this auto sum thing. There's this sigma button. And I said, oh, what does that button do? And this student said, look, if you've got a whole bunch of numbers in a row, right, and you want to add them all together, he says, go to there, you go to the home page, you press this auto sum button, and it says, are these the numbers you want to add together? And I said, yes, and it gives me 27 because this is the sum of all of these numbers. It is the sum of those numbers. Okay. So some of you who have used Excel frequently have used that little button in Excel, and for you that symbol is the same meaning as the one I had. That number was, the sigma says add a whole bunch of numbers together in Excel. That's the one that you press, and then it will come back and say, okay, well, let's go down here. Let's do this over again. You press this, that symbol says add a whole bunch of numbers together, and Excel says, are those the numbers you want me to add together? And I say, yeah, those are the numbers I want you to add together. By the way, that also works for numbers going in this direction. So that's why Excel will actually ask you the question. So if you put it over here and you press that sigma button, okay, you press that sigma button and it says, are these the numbers you want to add together? And the answer is, possibly yes. Yes. Hit that and it does it. It essentially is a shortcut for a function in Excel called sum. Now, you could have done this without the Excel because you could have used equal sign sum parentheses and then showed which numbers you wanted to add together, and you get at the same number. Summing a whole bunch of numbers together is all that sigma does. Okay. Any questions on that? Are you still petrified of that equation that was on the board? Or are you okay with it? Relax. Okay. Step back. The reason it looked complicated was because of what I call visual vocabulary. You saw a symbol that you didn't know what the meaning of it was, and you thought, oh my God, that is really, really scary. My eyes are starting to glaze over. Okay? Be honest, how many of you had your eyes starting to glaze over when you saw that first formula that I said was easy? Okay? It really should be okay. All right? Did I talk people from off the cliff a little bit? Yes? No? I was never on the cliff? Okay. All right. So, remember I had talked earlier about there's not an awful lot of math. Okay. but some of the math will look scary. Okay? And it's usually because of that sigma just saying, oh, you've got to add a whole bunch of numbers together. I got a little warning for you. Okay? I can make that look even more complicated. All right? But we'll hold that off until Monday because I'll give you the formula. Well, first of all, I guess maybe I have. Okay. This sigma says add everything together. And then what is it that I'm adding together? It's what's behind here. If I write something that looks like this, right? It's saying add a whole bunch of numbers together. Which numbers should I add together? Well, I'm going to start with the first one, but what I'm trying to add is all of these numbers together. For the first observation, what was my x? Well, it was 5, 9. I chose a bad. Just use feet. All right. First one is 5. 5 squared minus 5 is 25 minus 5. So for this first for this first observation, this thing that's behind it is 20. Now what? I'm going to add that. I'm going to add to that whatever this is for I equals 2. 2 was another 5. This is 5 squared. 25 minus 5 means another 20. Right? The third one, third observation, is somebody that's 6 foot. 6 squared is 36. 36 minus 5 is what? 31. Okay. For each of the i's, each one of these is an I, right? From 1 all the way down to n. Okay? I'm going to end up with a number. And I can make a column of that number. And what this column over here is going to be is x squared minus 5. Okay, this is the x i's. And what I am doing is for each I am creating a column. I'm putting that in a column. When I'm done doing it for all of the students, what does that sigma tell me to do? Add them all together. So if you put them all in a column in Excel, which is why I love Excel, okay, because in Excel you can put things in columns really easily, right? You can put this here, you can create a column with your x's, and if you've got a formula like this, you can create a column that has the answer of this for each student. So student number 5 has the x being a 4. 4 squared is 16 minus 5. So this one is 11. Right? Whatever this is, you can compute it. And the easiest way to do it is in Excel, because you can make a column of it. When you're done with each of the i's, figuring out whatever this is that you're supposed to add together, when you're done with each one of them, what do? You add them together. Right? Which is, I'm going to take you back to Excel, okay? Because the beauty in Excel is Excel does this very, very nicely. All right, share application screen. So let me just get everything. So I'm going to start. I'm going to create a column, which is just the i's. Okay. column with the x's, and then let's say x times 25. So I've created a bunch of columns, and on this one I will just 1 equal 1 plus 1 for copy. If you learn how to control copy, essentially it copies that formula all the way down, which I shouldn't have done. X plus this cell. Okay, so I've got those, and let's just put a whole bunch of numbers. Whoops, I want to go down and showing you how easy Excel is and screwing it up in the process. 4, 3, 6, 4, 6. Just putting random numbers in. In most cases, you would have these numbers because they would mean something, right? Okay. Now, in this case, we wanted to take each number and multiply it by 25. What I'm doing here is calculating the following equation. Summation okay, let me see. I can't see myself here. Share camera. Summation I 1 to n, and what we are doing is taking each of the xi's times 25. Okay. So what is behind the sigma? It's x times 25 for each of the x's, starting from the first to the end, and then when we compute it for each of the n observations, we add them all together. So in Excel, we're going to be making that column, which I had started here. So I is just the number of students, x was the value for that, then x times 25. To calculate that, equal sign. In Excel, when you are doing a formula, you start formulas with the term, the equal sign. That way it knows it's not text or it's not a number, but it's going to be something that Excel needs to calculate. And what you wanted to do was take the number that's right there, multiply it, okay? And in multiplication in Excel, it is the star button, which is above 8. Star 25. Okay, and you'll see the formula up here. Let me see if I can just make all this bigger. U. There, you guys should be able to see this a little bit better, right? Okay, so the formula here is, if I click on it, it'll show you what the formula is. It says, go to cell B2, and whatever's in that cell, multiply it by 25, and that's what we want to put into column C. Now we could go do this for each column. Equal sign, 4 times 25, right? Or we could say, well, this is very tedious. What I want to do is multiply everything in column B by 25. So why don't I did it here for this cell, Control copy, and then just highlight down where I want to go. And what it does is it takes this formula and it copies it down. So this formula said, take this cell that's next to it, cell B4, multiply it by 25. Well, we copied that down to this cell. And when I click on this cell, it now says copy 6 times 25. The cell that's next to it times 25. If I go down 2 more cells, again, it shows us that it looked at the cell right next to it, multiplied by 25. So it did this all the way through. So very quickly, I can create a formula to create a new column for whatever it is that we're trying to add together. When we are done, what do we want to do? We want to go to the bottom, all the way down to the bottom, right? And then what do we want to do? We want to sum them all together. So we go to that sigma button and say, sum. Are these all the numbers you wanted to add together? And they say, yeah, those are the numbers we wanted to add together. So we end up with 3025 as being what we end up with. Okay. All right. So as we are doing these equations in Excel, okay, they're really easy to do for each individual one. And if we have all of our observations in a column, we can compute whatever it is that's behind that sigma, right? And then just cut and paste that all the way down, right? One thing you need to be aware of is when you copy something, okay, it will do a relational thing unless you tell it otherwise, okay? So control copy, you have the cell up here. I say I want to copy that down here, and it will do it. If this cell said, look at the one cell over from where I currently am, where you copied it to, that formula is going to say, go over 1 cell, just like it was before. It does not go to, when you copy it, the pointer does not stay where it was. If you copy it down, you know, a row down, the pointers, all of the things that the pointers point to, want to go down 1 row. If you want it to not change what it's pointing to, you're going to have to put $signs either in front of the number, $sign, or in front of the letter, or both. If you put it in front of the letter, what it's saying is, regardless of where I copy this to, don't change the column. I always want to stay in column B, even if I copy this, control copy, I copy it over somewhere over here, it's not staying in the column anymore. It moved over. I copied this over 1 column, so everything it pointed to moved over 1 column. Okay? You don't want that, put a $sign. Okay? If you put a $sign in front of the number, it says wherever you move this to, don't, this thing that you're pointing to, don't move the row. If you put a $sign in front of the column and a thing in front of the row, it's going to keep both of those. It's going to keep that cell absolutely anchored. So if we want to take this, control copy, and copy it way over to someplace like over here, it will now still point. It, you know, when I copied it, because I had dollar signs here, instead of moving and saying, oh, take the number next to it, multiply it by 25, it's saying, no, take the number that isn't moving and multiply it by 25 and put it somewhere else. All right. The best way to deal with this, for those of you who are not very comfortable in Excel, is play with it. Okay. I'm not necessarily going to make it homework, but trust me on this. If you know how to manipulate Excel, you will do very well in your career, regardless of whether you're a management employee, whether you're marketing, or whether you're in finance. Okay. Excel is not a skill that you should say, oh, I'm not a numbers person, I don't need to know how to do that. Right? The people who know Excel best are the ones that are going to get promoted first. I can guarantee that. All right. So practice Excel in all of your classes, and there are lots of tutorials that are out on YouTube, or there are lots of self-help videos or self-help books you can even get in the local public library, because there's a lot on, you know, how do I get the most out of Excel? All right, and we will be using this throughout the class. All right. I don't see those last couple things that I was doing. You guys didn't see, did you? Because I don't see the stop sharing button. Okay. Guys, say something, all right? When it's obvious I'm trying to point to something and you guys can't see it, stop me, all right? All right, let's move on. What I want to cover today in the last couple minutes are 3 different measures: mean, median, and mode. The first one is mean. Mean and average. Mean and average are the same. Okay? Share camera so I can see what you guys are seeing. Mean, also known as average. Okay. It is probably the most used statistic. People will want to know, well, where is the middle? Where is the mean? Where is the average? What is the average? Okay. When I'm handing back exams, many times the students will ask, oh, what was the average for the class? Right? They're asking, what is the mean? How do you calculate the average? I just told you. And I didn't have to tell you, because you could tell me. How do you calculate the average? You add them together, and then you divide by however many were there. So if there are 20 students, you add them all together and divide by 20, right? In math, we will write something like that. I equals 1 to n. Okay. You add up all the numbers and divide it. That's how we get the mean. How you guys get the average. Next one is median. In median, we talk about which variable is in the middle. Okay, and the way we get the median is we have to sort them from highest to lowest. Okay. So let me try this again. When I go to the Excel option, which is no longer there. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to put some random numbers in here. And the neat thing is Excel actually has a function that generates random numbers. Okay, and I picked one random number, control copy, but I want a whole bunch here. So I just picked a whole bunch of random numbers and I'm going to control copy and I'm just going to paste them with a value so they don't stop changing. All right. Now, if I wanted to find the average of these, if I wanted to find the mean, I add them up and divide by out however many there are. Okay?
So
And
you only see a black
yes,
screen.
you don't see an Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, it's just a black screen.
Okay, thank you for telling me. Let me stop sharing and we will start let me go over. Let me share application screen. And we'll try this again. Do you see it now?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, thank you. Yep, thank you very much for letting me know. Okay. Oh, by the way, if you verbally say it, it's easier for me because when I have this up on my screen, I can't necessarily see the screen with you guys posting things. So interrupt me verbally is very much appreciated. All right. So one of the things I want to do, okay, is I want to take these and sort them. Well, let's do the mean first, right? So to do the mean, what do I want to do? Get the mean. Okay. First thing I want to do is add up all the numbers. And I'm going to just use sum, which does that. Which numbers do I want to add up? I want to add up those numbers. And then I want to divide it by however many numbers there were, right? And the neat thing is Excel actually has this function that says count. And say, can count, well, which numbers do I want to count? And I want to count however many numbers that were there, right? So, you know, if I counted them, equal count. It tells me there's 23 numbers, right? So the mean of my numbers was 47. That's the same thing as average. If I want to compute the median, well, the first thing I have to do is I'm just going to control copy. I'm just going to move this over and make another column of it. That's one of the neat things about Excel is that you've got all this white space. You can use it, right? And what I want to do is I want to sort it either from highest to lowest. Okay, so I go to data, sort, and it'll let me sort on whatever I want. Hit OK. All right. Now you will see that all of these numbers have the smallest ones up on top and the biggest ones down on the bottom. So there were two 24s. There's a 24 and whatever, right? How many did we have? We had 23 students, right? What we are looking for is the one that is in the middle on this column, which would mean with 23, there would be 11 above, 11 below, and there will be one in the middle, right? So, so what we want to do is go to the 12th. We know that there's got to be 11 above. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 47. This one is the one that's in the middle, and that is the median. Okay. The median has the same number of people above and the same number of people below. Okay. Now I know that I'm a little out of time, but one of my career things that I always wanted to be, because I am a cruel and nasty person, is I always wanted to be an elementary school gym teacher. Why? Because I always would look forward to picking teams. And what I would love to do is do dodgeball, have people line up from the tallest and biggest students to the smallest students. Have them line up, and then I would say, okay, the 11 of you that are in the bottom, the smaller students, you go on one team. The ones that are really big and athletic, you guys go on the other team, and the person in the middle, you're the referee. Here's the ball, go kill each other, right? Right out of a movie, Bad Elementary Gym Teacher, right? But what am I doing? I split the class up, so I've got the smallest on one side and the larger numbers on the other, right? A mean gym teacher would do that because they enjoy watching the slaughter of the big kids beating up the little kids, or the David and Goliath where the little kids actually win. All right, story of game. Well, what's the stock that's going on right now? GameStop, right? The little guys beating up the Wall Street bullies. All right. Anyways, a teacher would probably, a third grade reading teacher would probably want to do this. Say, okay, let's line people up based upon their reading levels, and we'll have two books, and I will have this part of the class, okay, read an easier book. This other class of these other students who are more advanced, I will give them a book in a higher reading level, right? Okay. And for the teacher, what does the teacher want to know? Where is the median? Where is the middle where I have to divvy up the class? And that is called the median. The last one is called the mode. And the mode is the one observation that is most frequent. Okay? It is a little bit complicated to deal with, and we will start with in Excel, but we will start that a little bit on Monday. All right? With that, I am going to call it quits for today. Are there any questions that you have? Any comments? Okay. Well, with everybody, have a great weekend, and we will see everybody here again on Monday. Same place, same bat channel. Okay? Take care.